a mind consumed by cruelty. Shiro Ishii. The name sends chills down the spine, a name synonymous with some of the most horrific acts in human history. As the mastermind behind Japan's Unit 731, Ishii wasn't a doctor, he was a monster cloaked in the guise of scientific curiosity. His true laboratory wasn't filled with beakers and microscopes, but with human beings, stripped of their dignity and subjected to unimaginable horrors. This is the story of a man who twisted science into a weapon of war, leaving a dark stain on history that time cannot erase. At the shadow of Unit 731, Ishii's reign of terror unfolded in the shadows of Unit 731, a sprawling complex disguised as a water purification unit in Japanese-occupied Manchuria. This was no ordinary military installation, it was a factory of human suffering, where men, women, and even children were reduced to test subjects, their lives deemed worthless by the regime Ishii served. Behind the barbed wire fences and imposing walls, a terrifying truth festered. Unit 731 was a death camp masquerading as a research facility. Under Ishii's command, Unit 731 was a place of unspeakable cruelty. He believed that human experimentation was essential to Japan's wartime success, a belief that would have horrifying consequences for thousands of innocent souls. Driven by a twisted ideology and fueled by a thirst for knowledge at any cost, Ishii transformed Unit 731 into a factory of human suffering. Humanity abandoned experiments in cruelty. The experiments conducted at Unit 731 weren't merely unethical, they were the grotesque imaginings of a mind consumed by darkness. Ishii and his team, desensitized to the suffering they inflicted, treated their victims as little more than laboratory rats. They were infected with deadly diseases like the plague and cholera, their bodies ravaged by the unseen enemies Ishii sought to weaponize. Vivisection, the dissection of living beings, was a common practice. Victims, often without anesthesia, were sliced open, their organs examined with cold detachment as they screamed in agony. Ishii's thirst for knowledge seemed to know no bounds, and his victims paid the ultimate price. The horrors of Unit 731 stand as a chilling testament to the depths of depravity that human beings can sink to in the name of progress. Beyond imagination, the depths of Ishii's crimes. The experiments at Unit 731 weren't limited to disease and vivisection. Ishii's team used prisoners as human guinea pigs for testing weapons, from grenades to flamethrowers, documenting the effects of these instruments of war on the human body with chilling precision. Pregnant women, their bodies already carrying life, were subjected to unimaginable horrors, their unborn children casualties of Ishii's twisted curiosity. The depths of Ishii's depravity knew no bounds. He subjected prisoners to extreme temperatures, freezing them alive to study the effects of frostbite, then thawing them just to observe the gruesome progression of decay. Other victims were deprived of food and water, their bodies slowly wasting away as Ishii's team meticulously recorded their every agonizing moment. The horrors inflicted within the walls of Unit 731 defy comprehension, a testament to the darkest recesses of the human soul. As World War II neared its end, the horrific truth of Unit 731 began to emerge. Facing defeat, Ishii ordered the destruction of the facility, attempting to erase the evidence of his crimes and silence the voices of his victims forever. The complex was razed, its gruesome secrets buried beneath rubble and ash in a desperate attempt to escape accountability. Despite the Japanese government's efforts to conceal the truth, whispers of the horrors of Unit 731 began to surface. Survivors, haunted by their experiences, shared their stories, their voices trembling with a mixture of anger and pain. The world listened in disbelief, struggling to comprehend the scale of the atrocities committed in the name of science and national progress. The Nuremberg trials, held to hold Nazi war criminals accountable for their actions, cast a long shadow over the aftermath of World War II. While the world watched, eager for justice to be served, a secret deal was being brokered behind closed doors. In exchange for the data collected from their horrific human experiments, Ishii and his team were granted immunity from prosecution by the United States. This decision, shrouded in secrecy and driven by a desire to gain an advantage in the burgeoning Cold War, allowed Ishii and his accomplices to escape the justice they so richly deserved. The United States, eager to exploit the scientific knowledge gained through such inhumane means, turned a blind eye to the suffering inflicted at Unit 731, prioritizing its own interests over the pursuit of justice and accountability. Shiro Ishii, the architect of unimaginable suffering, was never held accountable for his crimes. He lived out his days in relative freedom, dying in 1959 from throat cancer, a fate far too kind for a man who had inflicted so much pain. The immunity deal struck between the United States and Ishii's team remains a controversial chapter in history, a stain on the pursuit of justice in the wake of World War II. The lack of accountability for Ishii and his team represents a failure of the international community to confront the horrors of Unit 731. The decision to prioritize political expediency over justice sent a dangerous message, suggesting that some crimes are simply too sensitive, too politically charged, to be fully investigated and prosecuted. Though the physical structures of Unit 731 were destroyed, the scars of Ishii's crimes run deep. The survivors, forever haunted by their experiences, continue to seek justice and recognition for the horrors they endured. Their stories, testaments to the resilience of the human spirit, serve as a reminder of the fragility of peace and the ever-present potential for human cruelty. The legacy of Unit 731 is a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked ambition and the ethical boundaries that must be drawn in the pursuit of scientific knowledge. It is a story that demands to be told, a dark chapter in human history that must never be forgotten. Shiro Ishii's name will forever be etched in history as a symbol of scientific depravity. His legacy is not one of progress or discovery, but of suffering, cruelty, and the perversion of knowledge. It is our duty to remember the victims of Unit 731, to honor their memories by ensuring that such atrocities never happen again. We must learn from the horrors of the past, acknowledging the dark chapters of human history, so that we can strive towards a future where the dignity of every individual is respected and the pursuit of knowledge never again comes at the cost of human life. Only then can we begin to heal the wounds of the past and prevent such atrocities from ever being repeated.